My older brother was a genius, a charismatic financial wizard who promised to make our family rich. I trusted him with everything I had, my life savings, my inheritance, my future. But when I went to buy a home for my fiancée, I discovered the devastating truth behind his perfect life. He had built an empire on lies, and I was his first victim. This isn't just a revenge story about a financial crime investigation. It's about the horrifying realization that the person you admire most is a monster. You will not believe how I took him down. Listen to the whole story to find out how I exposed every single one of his secrets. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, go ahead and give it a like. It really helps me out. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos. Thanks a bunch. The floor didn't just fall out from under me. It vaporized. 1 second, I was standing on the solid ground of my own life, a life I had meticulously designed and built. The next, I was in a free fall, tumbling through a cold, dark void with nothing to grab onto. It all happened in the sterile quiet of a bank office in a suburb outside of Austin, Texas. The loan officer, a kind woman named Maria with tired eyes, had just slid a single piece of paper across the polished wood of her desk. "I'm sorry, Mr. Allen," she said, her voice gentle, which somehow made it worse. There must be a mistake. The account number you provided for the wire transfer. It only has a balance of $712. I stared at her. My brain tried to process the words, but they were in a foreign language. $712. It was a joke, it had to be. I laughed, a short, sharp bark of a sound that was completely out of place. "No, that's not possible," I said, pulling my phone out. My hands were starting to shake. I fumbled with the banking app, the one my brother, Leo, had set me up with. It was for his exclusive high-yield investment fund. I pulled up the statement he had emailed me just last week. It was right there, in crisp, digital black and white. Balance, $482,341.56. My half of our father's inheritance, plus every penny I'd saved since I started working as an architect. Everything. "Look," I said, pushing the phone toward her, my voice getting tight. "It's right here, almost $500,000. Maybe you typed the account number wrong?" She gave me a pitying look. The kind of look you give a dog that's been hit by a car. "Sir, we've checked 3 times. The number is correct. That PDF you have, it isn't an official bank statement. I don't know where it came from, but it's not from us." And that's when the free fall began. The air in my lungs turned to ice. The muted beige walls of the office started to close in. My fiancée, Sarah, was waiting for me at the new house, the one we were supposed to be closing on. A beautiful little craftsman bungalow we had poured all our dreams into. We had already picked out paint colors. We'd argued playfully about where to put the couch. All of that was built on a foundation of lies. A PDF. A fake number on a fake document sent by my own brother, Leo, my older brother, my hero. He was the sun, and I was just a planet caught in his orbit. Growing up, he was the prodigy, the genius with a stratospheric IQ and a charm that could disarm a bomb. I was the steady one, the diligent one, as our parents used to say. Leo would get praise for his brilliant, half-finished ideas. I would get a pat on the head for my meticulously completed homework. He was destined to change the world. I was destined to help build it, brick by boring brick. I never resented him for it. How could I? He was Leo, he was dazzling, and he always looked out for me, or so I thought. When our father passed away 2 years ago, it was Leo who held everything together. In the fog of grief, he was the one clear voice. He sat me down in Dad's old study, the smell of old books and pipe tobacco still hanging in the air, and he laid out a plan. "Dad would want us to be smart with this, Ethan," he'd said, his voice resonating with a confident authority that I craved. He told me about his new fintech venture, a private investment fund for friends and family. He used words like algorithmic trading, alpha generation, and market arbitrage. It was all a dizzying blur of jargon. But the message was clear. This was an opportunity a normal person would never get. He promised returns that were almost unbelievable. "I'm putting all of my inheritance in," he'd said, looking me right in the eye. "And I'm putting Mom's share in too. We're all in this together, a family fund." And I remember feeling a surge of pride. My brother, the genius, was letting me in on the ground floor. He was taking care of us. I didn't just give him my half of the inheritance. I liquidated my 401k, I emptied my savings. I gave him everything, because trusting Leo was as natural to me as breathing. For 2 years it seemed like the smartest decision I'd ever made. Every month, a sleek PDF would arrive in my inbox, showing incredible growth. I felt safe. I felt smart. I felt like I was finally catching up to him. Now, sitting in that bank, I felt like the world's biggest fool. I stumbled out of the office and into the blinding Texas sun, my phone clutched in my hand like a lifeline. I called him. It went straight to voicemail. "Hey, you've reached Leo. Leave a message. Be brilliant." His stupid, arrogant, confident voice. I called again, and again. On the 5th try he picked up. Ethan. Ethan. "Hey, little brother. Is the house officially yours? Did you and Sarah pop the champagne yet?" His voice was breezy, casual, like he was talking about the weather. The rage that hit me was so pure, so hot, it was almost sublime. "Leo, where's my money?" There was a pause. A tiny, fractional beat of silence that told me everything. "What are you talking about? It's in the account. I sent you the statement. I'm at the bank, Leo. They're saying the account is empty. They're saying your statement is a fake." I expected him to panic, to be confused. Instead, I heard a condescending sigh. It was the same sound he used to make when I couldn't solve a math problem as a kid. "Ethan, Ethan, Ethan," he said, his voice dripping with tired patience. "Don't be so dramatic. You know how these wire transfers are. There's a clearinghouse delay. It's a huge sum of money. They have protocols. You're just not used to dealing with this level of finance. You're being emotional. Gaslighting." I didn't know the term for it then, but I knew the feeling. The dizzying sensation of your own reality being denied, twisted, and handed back to you as a weapon to be used against yourself. He was telling me the sky was green, and for a terrifying second, I almost looked up to check. "Say delay, Leo, they said the balance is $700. "Exactly. The bulk of the funds are in transit. It's a temporary holding balance." "Honestly, Ethan, I'm in the middle of a huge meeting right now. Are you seriously calling me and questioning my integrity over a procedural hiccup? After everything I've done for this family? You're an architect. Stick to blueprints. Let me handle the money." She hung up, just like that. I stood there on the sidewalk, cars whizzing by, the world continuing to spin while mine had just ground to a halt. He made me feel insane. He made me feel small and stupid and ungrateful. And the worst part? A tiny, pathetic part of me believed him. The part that had been conditioned for 32 years to believe that Leo was brilliant, and I was not. Learned helplessness is a cage you don't even realize you're in until you try to rattling the bars. Breaking the news to Sarah was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I watched the light go out of her eyes. I saw our future, that beautiful craftsman bungalow, crumble into dust. The strain was immediate. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the trust I had placed in Leo, a trust she had never fully shared. "He's too smooth, Ethan," she had said more than once. "Nobody is that perfect." I had always defended him. Now, her quiet skepticism felt like a prophecy I had been too blind to see. The next few months were a living hell. We lost the house, obviously. We lost our deposit. We had to stay in our cramped apartment, the walls suddenly feeling thinner, the air thicker with unspoken tension. I took on freelance drafting work, staying up until 3 in the morning, my eyes burning, just to make ends meet. I was exhausted, humiliated, and drowning in a cognitive dissonance so profound it felt like a physical illness. How could the brother I loved, the man who was our family's shining star, do this to me? Meanwhile, Leah's life only got more spectacular. His Instagram was a highlight reel of my stolen future, a brand new, pearl-white Tesla, a weekend trip to Napa Valley, complete with helicopter tours, a sprawling glass and steel modern mansion he just bought in Westlake Hills, overlooking the city. He would post photos with captions like, "Hard work pays off. #blessed entrepreneur." It was a public performance of success, and I was the unwilling, invisible sponsor of the show. The final insult came a month later. He called, his voice oozing with phony concern. Hey, Ethan. Mom told me you guys were struggling a bit. Listen, don't be too proud to ask for help. I can float you a loan, let's say, $10,000, just to help you get back on your feet." He was offering to lend me my own money. He was framing his theft as my failure and his generosity as my salvation. The sheer, breathtaking narcissism of it almost knocked me over. I felt a cold, calm clarity settle over me for the first time in months. The grief and confusion were burning away, leaving something harder and sharper in their place. "No, thank you, Leo," I said, my voice steady. No shame in it, little brother. Not everyone is built for the pressures of the big leagues." That was it. That was the moment the victim in me died. He didn't just steal my money, he was trying to steal my dignity, my sanity, my reality. He saw me as a resource, a stepping stone on his path to glory, a blueprint to be used and then discarded. But he made one critical mistake. He forgot what I do for a living. I'm an architect. I don't just see buildings. I see systems. I see the load-bearing walls and the hidden frameworks. I see the stress points and the structural weaknesses. And I decided right then and there that I was going to deconstruct Leo's entire life, piece by fraudulent piece, until there was nothing left but the rotten foundation he'd built it on. The first crack came from Sarah. She was the one who never drank the Kool-Aid. One night, while I was numbly scrolling through Leah's feed of performative wealth, she leaned over my shoulder. "Wait, go back," she said, pointing to a picture of Leo smiling on a balcony, a city skyline behind him. The caption read, "Closing the deal in Singapore. Big things coming. #global. Something's wrong with that photo," she said, her brow furrowed. She's a graphic designer. She sees things I don't. She screenshotted the image, zoomed in, and then did a reverse image search on the skyline. 2 seconds later she found it, a stock photo. A generic royalty-free image of the Singapore business district. Leo hadn't been to Singapore. He had just photoshopped himself onto a balcony. It was such a small, pathetic lie. But it was the key. It was the loose thread. If he would lie about something so insignificant, it meant his entire life, his entire persona, was a performance. It was all a carefully constructed facade, and I was about to take a sledgehammer to it. My private, meticulous financial crime investigation had just begun. The photoshopped picture from Singapore wasn't just a crack in the facade. It was a blueprint for his entire methodology. Leo wasn't just a thief, he was a con artist, and his primary currency was perception. He understood that if you project an image of overwhelming success, people become too intimidated or too embarrassed to ask the hard questions. They don't want to look stupid. It was the same tactic he'd used on me for 30 years. But now, I was immune. I saw the trick. My new obsession became untangling the web, and I approached it with the same methodical precision I used to design a building. My first step was to treat his life like a set of architectural plans that needed to be audited. I created a private spreadsheet, columns for dates, locations, claims, and evidence. I went back through years of his social media. Every post, every tag, every casual comment was a data point. The business lunch at a Michelin star restaurant in New York, I called the restaurant. They had no record of a reservation under his name. The keynote speech at a tech conference in San Francisco? I found the conference agenda online. He wasn't a speaker. He just bought a general admission ticket and taken a picture in front of the main stage before anyone else arrived. It was all hollow. A Potemkin village of success. He was a master of appearances, but appearances don't hold up under forensic accounting. His company, Allen Capital Ventures, was the next thing I examined. He'd always made it sound like a bustling hub of financial genius. Public records told a different story. It was an LLC registered to a P.O. box at a Yupsor. There was no office. There were no employees. There was only Leo. The next step was the hardest. I had to find the other victims. I knew he'd told me he was investing for our mother, but I couldn't bear to bring her into this yet. It would destroy her. So I started with a name I remembered from my dad's funeral, Mr. Gable. An elderly man who used to work with my father. I remembered Leo talking to him, his arm draped around the old man's shoulders, his voice a low, reassuring hum. I found Mr. Gable's number and made the call. My heart was pounding. I felt like a traitor, like I was airing our family's dirty laundry. But when I introduced myself and gently asked if he had also invested with Leo, the dam broke. The man's voice, frail and thin, cracked with a pain that I recognized instantly. He and his wife had given Leo their entire retirement fund, over $600,000. He'd been getting the same fake PDF statements. He'd recently tried to withdraw a small amount for his wife's medical bills and had been given the same runaround. Clearinghouse delays, market volatility, procedural hiccups. It was Leo's script. That conversation lit a fire under me. Over the next 2 weeks, I found 3 more victims. All of them elderly. All of them friends of my parents. People who trusted Leo because he was my father's son. He hadn't just stolen from me. He had systematically plundered the life savings of our family's most vulnerable friends. People who saw him as a surrogate grandson. This wasn't just a crime of opportunity, it was a calculated act of predatory evil. With their permission, I collected their fake statements and their stories. The pattern was undeniable. He was running a classic Ponzi scheme, using the money from new investors, like Mr. Gable, to pay small fake dividends to early investors, like me initially, to maintain the illusion of profitability, all while siphoning off the vast majority to fund his own obscene lifestyle. But the final, soul-crushing twist was yet to come. The piece that would reframe my entire life. I needed access to my dad's old files. I went to my mom's house, telling her I was looking for some old family photos. In the back of my dad's filing cabinet, behind his insurance policies and military records, I found a folder labeled "A Leo." Inside were old report cards, but also something else. A stack of letters from credit card companies and a bank, all dated from the months just before my dad's cancer diagnosis. They were collection notices, demands for payment. My brother, the financial genius, had been over $100,000 in debt. He had a severe hidden gambling problem. It all clicked into place with sickening clarity. He didn't just stumble into this scheme after Dad died. He had planned it. He had watched our father fading away and saw not a tragedy, but an opportunity, a bailout. His promises on my father's deathbed to take care of the family were part of the long con. He preyed on a dying man's love for his family to orchestrate the theft of his legacy. That was the moment my brother, the person I had known, truly died. In his place was a monster wearing his face. I could have gone to the SEC. I could have called the police. And I would. But not yet. A simple arrest wasn't enough. Leo's power wasn't just in the money, it was in the image, the illusion of brilliance, the admiration he commanded. To truly get justice, I had to destroy that. I had to dismantle him in the court of public opinion that mattered most to him. Our family and the business world he so desperately wanted to impress. I was going to make his narcissism the very instrument of his downfall. Through some careful digging on professional networking sites, I discovered he was on the verge of his biggest score yet. He was closing a series of funding round with a major Austin-based venture capital firm. They were about to wire him $5 million, which would not only allow him to pay off a few victims and keep the scheme going, but would also give him the one thing he craved most: legitimacy. The deal was set to close in 1 week. That was my deadline. My revenge would be a piece of theater, a one-act play of his destruction. I called my mother. "Mom," I said, my voice full of practiced concern. "I'm so worried about Leo, and about us. We haven't been a family since Dad died. I want to fix it. Can we please have a family meeting? A sort of intervention for our relationship. Just us, Aunt Carol, Uncle Mark, at your house. Sunday afternoon." My mom, bless her heart, was thrilled. She thought I was finally coming around. Then I called Leo. I fed his ego, telling him Mom and I needed his guidance, that we were lost without him, that I was sorry for ever doubting him. His narcissistic supply was so low from me ignoring him, that he eagerly agreed to be the family's returning king. Finally, I made one last call. I got the name of the lead VC partner on Leo's deal, a man named Marcus Thorne. I sent him a cryptic but intriguing email. "Mr. Thorne, my name is Ethan Allen. I am your LP's last line of defense against a catastrophic loss. Before you wire $5 million to Allen Capital Ventures, I invite you to witness a private family matter that will provide all the due diligence you need. Sunday, 4 p.m. I gave him my mother's address. It was a gamble, but I knew a man in his position wouldn't be able to resist pulling on such a strange thread. Sunday arrived. The living room of my childhood home was filled with the people whose opinions Leo valued most. Our mom. Our aunt and uncle who had always told him he was a boy genius. And, standing quietly by the door, a man in an expensive suit I recognized from his online profile, Marcus Thorne, who had told the family he was a business associate of Leo's just observing. Leo strolled in last, tanned and confident, wearing a polo shirt that probably cost more than my monthly rent. He sat in our dad's old armchair, holding court, ready to dispense his wisdom. I let him talk for a few minutes. I let him soak in the admiration. Then, I stood up. "And thank you all for coming," I began, my voice perfectly calm. I had a single manila folder in my hand. "Leo, I'm glad you're here, because this intervention is for you." I didn't raise my voice. I simply opened the folder. "I've been doing some work as an architect recently," I said, looking around the room. "But my most recent project was deconstructing a financial structure, a company called Allen Capital Ventures." I laid it all out, point by meticulous point. I had enlarged copies of the fake Singapore photo, printouts of the shell company registration, bank records showing the flow of money from Mr. Tuo, Gable's account directly to the down payment on Leo's Tesla. I had anonymized but detailed accounts from the other elderly victims. Leo started to bluster. "This is insane. Ethan is having some kind of breakdown. He's always been jealous." But I was prepared. "Jealous? Let's talk about jealousy, Leo." And then I pulled out the final exhibits, the credit card statements, the gambling debts from before Dad even got sick. "You weren't a genius who made a mistake, Leo. You were a desperate, indebted gambler who saw his own father's death as a get-out-of-jail-free card." The color drained from his face. The narcissistic mask didn't just crack, it shattered. His confident denials turned to sputtering rage, then to pathetic, pleading whimpers. He looked at our mother, his eyes begging for her to save him, but she was just staring at the evidence, her face a mask of pale, horrified disbelief. That's when I heard a quiet click. It was Marcus Thorne, the VC, closing his briefcase. He didn't say a word. He just gave me a single grim nod, turned and walked out the door, his phone already to his ear. I knew who he was calling. It was all over. The police arrived an hour later, alerted by Thorne's lawyers. They led my brother, the fallen genius, out of our childhood home in handcuffs. The aftermath was brutal. My family is fractured, maybe forever. My mother is still wrestling with the cognitive dissonance of who she thought her son was versus the monster he became. But for me and for Sarah, there is peace. We didn't get all the money back. Most of it was gone, pissed away on cars and trips and a lifestyle that never really existed. But I got something more valuable. I got my sanity back. I got my life back. I'm no longer living in his shadow, no longer the lesser brother. I've learned to form boundaries of solid steel. We're still in our small apartment, but it doesn't feel cramped anymore. It feels like a home we've built together, on a foundation that is real and true and entirely our own. I am the architect of my own life now, and I'm finally building on solid ground.